What's up, everyone? Jack Bushman from Locked On Blackhawks here. The Chicago Blackhawks made several roster transactions this morning to kick off the week. First and foremost, Alex Stalock. Y'all remember him? He's finally been activated off of injured reserve, and Stalock's been out since November 1st after suffering a concussion in the first period against the New York Islanders. A collision with Casey Cizikas in the first period. Didn't look like it was anything too significant, but with concussions, you really never know. And sadly, this one forced Stalock to miss the last month and a half, but finally it looks like he's been cleared to return to game action, and that should be a huge boost to the Blackhawks. Listen, they haven't had their NHL goaltending duo of Mrazek and Stalock healthy basically all season, and we're 30 games in now, so that should be a huge boost to the Blackhawks, especially since they've struggled to keep the puck out of the net as of late. And Stalock, prior to the injury, I thought he was off to a pretty good start to his Blackhawks tenure. He had a 3-2-1 record through his first 7 games with a 2.93 goals against average and a 914 save percentage. So hopefully he can pick up right where he left off now that he's finally out of concussion protocol and back on the Blackhawks active roster. And what Stalock's return also allowed the Blackhawks to do was send Arvid Soderblom back to the Rockford IceHogs of the AHL, back where he should have been this entire time had the Blackhawks been healthy in the goaltender department. And Soderblom, really, it had been tough sledding for him, finishes with a 2-10-2 record before going back down to Rockford. But honestly, I don't think you can say he played poorly, and you can't really blame very many losses on him. And I saw people kind of chirping him last night for one of his, not stronger showings against the New York Rangers. But really, there were several games that he lost where he kept the Blackhawks alive and kept the score from being far more lopsided than it already was. For being 23 years old, considering he had this defense in front of him, I thought Arvid Soderblom played really well and left me with, a very impressive image in my head. I think this kid is going to have a very bright future once he continues to gain more and more professional experience. Again, he's only 23 years old and isn't going to be 24 all the way until August. So he's still pretty raw, even though he does have professional experience overseas prior to signing with the Blackhawks. Still not too far along in the full developmental process. And that has me really stoked about what he could turn into in just a couple of years for the Blackhawks. Also, a scary incident occurred in this game on Sunday night against the New York Rangers. Defenseman Jarred Tinordi took a slap shot directly to the mouth from Rangers forward Sammy Blais. You saw blood go spewing out of the mouth of Tinordi, splattered all over the ice. It had to be cleaned up. And tragically for him, he had just been cut by a skate blade a couple of games prior, which required him to get 50 to 100 stitches. Taking that puck to the face on Sunday against the Rangers opened that cut back up, and it looks like Tinordi is going to be out for quite some time here as the Blackhawks placed him on injured reserve earlier this morning due to a facial fracture, which certainly sounds painful. So thoughts are going out to Jarred Tinordi and the warrior that he's been for the Blackhawks this season. Look, I'm not going to lie. I didn't really think it was the wisest signing from the Blackhawks early on in the season, considering they have a lot of guys in Rockford right now trying to step onto the scene, and also a guy in Ian Mitchell up in the NHL right now who I believe should be playing on a nightly basis. And I still do feel that way. I don't believe a healthy Tinordi should be in the lineup over Ian Mitchell, but I got to give some credit to Jarred Tinordi. I've thought, especially earlier on, it's been more so a struggle for him these past couple of weeks, but earlier on in the year, he was pretty sturdy on that second pairing with Connor Murphy and played a heck of a lot better and provided far more value than I imagined him when the Blackhawks first signed him. So credit to Jarred Tinordi for performing well so far this year, better than I think anyone expected. He's actually tied for the team lead in goals among defensemen with 2, but thoughts are going out to Tinordi, obviously suffering a scary injury. We'll probably get more of an update here soon from Luke Richardson on his status, but he's officially been placed on IR this morning. And with that being the case, the Blackhawks have also recalled defenseman Isaak Phillips from the Rockford IceHogs of the AHL, his first stint up in the NHL this season. And we saw Phillips get called up by the Blackhawks kind of surprisingly earlier on last year when they also dealt with some injuries on the back end. And Phillips played his part well. He's another big-bodied, defensive-minded defenseman, and down in Rockford so far this year, he's been really sturdy, and I've seen a lot of analytics and some deeper metrics. He's been one of the best defensemen in the entire AHL so far this year, and quietly, he's been kind of climbing the prospect rankings on the back end. And it's clear that the Blackhawks are very excited about his future, electing to call him up over some other guys right now. We'll see what Isaak Phillips has in store for his next NHL stint, and he could get into the lineup as soon as Wednesday when the Blackhawks take on the Nashville Predators. For more coverage on all these roster moves made by the Chicago Blackhawks, be sure to go and check out the Locked On Blackhawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.